I'm Greg Lindquist. I've been training 55 years as of this year. My teacher was Seiyu Oyata, and I was his student from 1968 until he passed in 2012, and maintained training since then. And I run an organization now called the Zensekai Karate Kobujitsu Renmei. A small organization, but we enjoy training in martial arts and weapons training and karate training. And pretty much I try to do things the old way to keep the old traditions going. My teacher was very traditional, yet he was a very modern man also. I was 19 years old, and I took a semester in college, had to go back and work to make money to go back to college. So friends of my family ran a gas station in a small town in Kansas called Olathe, Kansas. So I was working there, and one day this man brings this poster by. His name was Wallace Nicholson. He was a Green Beret that was stationed in Okinawa. Brought a poster by for karate training. Wanted to know if he could put it up in the gas station. Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, you should come down there. Oh, yeah, okay. Like we would say. So later, either that day or the next day, I saw this man walking. Now, this is 1968 in a small town in Kansas, walking with a full kimono and gaita on, cigarette hanging out of his mouth back then. And I go, whoa, what's that? So later on, he came by the gas station. He had different clothes on, of course, and said, "You come dojo." And I went, well, what? And he pointed to the poster. So like any inquisitive young guy, I went down there, and the rest is kind of history. So they didn't really know how to get students. I could say this. It's kind of humorous right now. So I went in there, and they put the bogo gear on me and just beat me up, And it's a wonder I went back, but I did. I thought, well, something special about this. So I really did. I went back, and the rest is history now. So they had rented this old rundown garage and didn't have much equipment, and it was very primitive, but there was something about him and his teaching method, personality that I liked. So as more I got into it, I've always been kind of a little bit of a history buff, and I've liked understanding where things come from. So I was very much interested in his culture. And he didn't speak very good English at first, and we managed, and he got better and better. Training was 7 days a week. And in that year, I only missed 2 days. Once I was real sick, and I mean real sick, and second was it was Christmas. And he was there a little over a year, and he had to return back to Okinawa because his family his son got injured, and he had to go back. So I visited Okinawa in 1975. We stayed in communication. And then he returned back in 77. And the training ever since, I was with him I first trained with him till he passed in 2012. I used to travel a lot with him at first. I was the person responsible for introducing him to people. And this was a unique experience. And then also we, established, before he came back, we established a martial arts supply business. Ran it, and I got to meet other martial artists, so it really expanded my knowledge of other arts and respect for other people. And so that really helped me understand things. So this has been just such a great journey. I think martial artists should be kind to each other and respectful. But also, when people need help, we help each other and help each other get better. So that's very important thing to do. So training, like anything, we specialize in different things. So hopefully specialize. So I had a kind of a fondness for the kama, for training the kama. So I liked that, and he saw something in me. So we really spent a lot of time on kama training. So Well, originally, you know, he was careful. He didn't teach too much when I first got here. So he was basically learning kata and then putting the boga gear on and beating each other to death, practically. And then doing some tuite, some grabbing technique. And I was usually on the receiving end of that, of course, you know. So as time went on and after he came back, we got more and more people to join. He was actually satisfied just teaching a few of us. And when we had the martial arts business, he would help us like make things. We made our own uniforms and stuff like that. And we started making weapons and things. So I think he was happy. And you know, I went to him one day and I said, what you're teaching won't fit in my head. We need more people, you know. And then we started doing that, you know. I was just kind of joking with him about that. But actually he said, okay, you know. And we had already some other people. Jim Logan, South Carolina was one. And Albert Giraldi in New York was another. And when we first started, that we made a small organization. And especially after he left, you know, I met these guys. And you know, we tried, and so when he came back, there was a small organization for him. And then as time went on, it grew. He was a very, very good technician. And when he'd go around and show people, and I went around with him the first few years, almost everywhere he went. And being the uke is very painful, but as we all know, as being martial artists, yeah, it's part of the game. You know, you have to feel pain and feel technique, you know. I knew the man, I wasn't scared of him, but you have so much respect. And since he hurt me a lot, you know, I mean, not really hurt me, but of course we had a few accidents, you know. I used to joke I was the king of the knockout club, you know. I went with him everywhere and he, you know, used me most of the time. And then one of the best things to me after I got in my 40s, he said, well, I'm going to do it less on you. I got some younger guys now. You know, so age is something, you know, that's important. But to me, feeling the technique and stuff. So, you know, as he told me, he said, killing's very easy, but controlling is more difficult. And so, like, knocking out isn't that they're out and they can't do anything. It's that you have total control of them. So you don't have to go out all the way, and you don't really want that because then you got to wake them up. And that can be a problem. So the idea is to stun the person, and so they don't really know how, I mean, or what happened to them, and then they're, you know, the room's doing this, hopefully. So I think it's kind of a unique experience to feel that. Another story I have when Dr. Chris Hubbard showed up to our dojo in the late 70s, and he was a PhD of anatomy. So I knew when he walked in, I was in trouble, of course, that day, you know. So he wanted to show him technique, you know. So he told me to punch at him. So when he said punch, he really means it, not just, you know, okay, it's like really punching at him. So he hit me in the arm here. And I just remember waking up. I mean, and this is what they told me would happen. He hit me on the arm, I collapsed. I tried to get up, and I kept collapsing down. And I moved over and curled up like a fetal position. So Dr. Hubbard is going, hey, wow, that's pretty neat. You know, being a martial artist, we'd say that, you know. So I had no idea what happened. He had to tell me. And this is what he said. I know what he did, but I don't know how he did it. And here's a PhD talking, see. So this was a unique experience that we had to understand. So this is what, you know, my studies were. Understand the human body, how it works. You don't want your opponent to see your breathing. So you hear all these people doing kata and they make a lot of noise and exhale, you know, all this. And I think that's not really good because you don't want your opponent to know you're breathing. As anybody knows, when can you strike? See? Take a breath, now you hit, see? So if you exhale a lot, you can't do anything. So just by knowing. So I thought an interesting thing was the fact that he liked people that had mustaches and beards because you could see that. To me, this is knowledge is what we're getting in the martial arts, and I'm not perfect, and I'm still training and still learning, and no one can know it all. When it comes to the weapons and everything, proper use of them is very important, and understanding them. You know, a bow is 6 foot long, but it's not a 6 foot weapon. It's only a 3 foot weapon because you have to hold it, and that's all you have to strike with. A jo, or a yonshoku is 4 feet. Here again, it's another 3 foot weapon because you have to hold it. Now this ryokushaku is 6 foot. You can't hold it on the end and use it. It's very difficult. There's some techniques. So you have to hold it up, so that's the 3 feet. And the yonshoku or the jo, you can hold it at lower end, you still have the 3 feet, you see. So they're very similar things. So then it comes to the smaller, the hand weapons, sai, everything else like that. Knowing how to use those properly, because the bow was kind of the king of the Kobujitsu. It's not that it's better, it's the common denominator. It was the common thing, and it was used to gauge other things. So you always used to see years ago, bow versus sai, bow versus tonfa, bow versus bow, because that was the common thing, and whatever talent was, So it's much difficult if you have a sai and a guy's got a bow. You really got to know your stuff. See, sometimes they use two because that would aid you. See, so I think this is important, and also the tambo we use is very important. I feel that is because it's easy to find that. Sai, the other things you have to have a blacksmith or a metal person make these. For a bow, you need a long piece of wood. Tambo is 2 feet long. You can find that, I mean, imagine yourself in a forest. You need something. You can find a 2 foot, it may not be straight, but it'd be pretty straight. So to me, that is the easiest thing to find. So if you had to teach a mass of people, that'd be a very common thing. And I like the techniques very much. So in the system, we have the Kazushi kata. The Kazushi kata from the Ugushiku family was, I think, very unique and very important. And it has a lot of the tachiage type motions, very beautiful moves. And I think it's important. So that's why I use this to honor my teacher and his teachers. So I think that's really important to do. But we have a Kazushi Kama and Kazushi Tambo. I think I know like 29 weapons forms, which is really too much. But just to learn to pass them on, I can't perfect them myself, So different people hopefully will pick up different ones and pass them on, because things are too valuable to lose. These are very, very old art, and I think they need to be passed down to the next generations. Sometimes people talk about the war, not too much, because it was a terrible thing. So he had lost his 3 brothers. He was the last one. And the police came to his parents' house and said, "We're taking your son." And his dad said, "You're not taking my last son. You already got 3 of them, And so they said, "Then you go to jail." Then the dad goes to jail, because the Japanese, needed people. So he told his dad he would go. And he went into the Navy, and, excuse me here. And he had that training, and they, a lot of martial arts training in that, as far as judo and iaido and spear training and yari and the bayonet training and all that. And these were just young kids, and he did all that, and he was supposed to be in the kaiten, the one-way torpedo kind of. And he told me they would weld you in it and gave you enough gas for one way and air, So, and I've seen pictures of them, I understand. So this was, a suicide thing. So it's hard to believe people can do that, for my generation, it's very difficult. So, that was a terrible experience. They were in the Philippines, and luckily for us, they got captured before he had to go out. He was scheduled for like a week. And the U.S. invaded the Philippines, and they had to scatter in the hills. They eventually all got captured. And that was a tough thing. And, they got the Philippine people stoned him and everything. So, I mean, he was a POW, in other words, at that point. He was supposed to go out in the kaiten, and he was scheduled for a week, and then they had already sent the death certificate to his family. So they thought he was gone. So when he returned, evidently communications wasn't great, that his mother was surprised because she hadn't seen him in, 2 or 3 years or more. I don't know how long it was. And she looked behind to see if he left footprints, because ghosts, she thought it was a ghost. So we got back to Okinawa, and then you get back to your home, and there's hardly any buildings left, completely bombed. A very terrible part to go to. And he said, he almost became a Yakuza, because that was the only way to make money. His dad was very strong, and I guess talked him out of it, and that's when he got a job for the American, taking food around, and where he met his teacher, so then that helped him. But he went through some terrible, terrible things, like I'm sure other Okinawans can attest to. It made his character very strong. And also I think his family. His dad was some type of sumo champion in Okinawa, their version of it, I think from his high school or something. So I think he had a pretty tough family he came from. So, but he was, very interesting man. He was a very good man, but he had flaws like everyone, don't we all? When my teacher met his teachers, which was a unique story too, he worked for the American government taking food around after the war. He had the amphibious vehicles, the ones that are land and water. And, he saw the older man, and 90-some years old in this town, and tried to befriend him, give him food, and he wouldn't take it. He kept at it, and finally he saw him one day out fishing, and the old man says, "Hey, you can take me fishing." Okay, so I took him fishing, and then you're alone on the ocean, and you can talk, and that's what happened. And they called him Kamotambe. So he had his hair back, like you weren't supposed to have those here, illegal, they were like the warrior style. So when we met him, then he realized from the name who he was, the Tukushku family. And we believe they were the sleeping quarters guards and the side gate guards. And I always wondered why the side gate, but then that's how the king would enter. You don't go through the front door, The one question he asked him, what is your bloodline? So, warrior class people, this was important. So Oyata Sensei was from the Zana, the Veikata or Oyakata line. So, he could teach him, evidently. So that rest is history now. So he got to learn from this man, and he learned weapons. And he said, why would I learn weapons first? And it was because, he said, I'm old and I'll die soon. Some of these will die with me. So this was an important thing. He told me one thing about it. He was like my size for Okinawan. I was large at that time. And he said, if he did if his teacher held his hand up, he had to go this way to be the same thickness. So I think a lot of the warrior class were big, large people. And then Oyata Sensei told me he went to his family tomb and looked it up, and he said the bones were very large. You know, they used to wash the bones, put them in. And he said, yeah, they were larger people. So possibly this is a key to that. Ugushiku Tame, I think, had other students. I know he had one other student, probably others, but they probably got killed in the war. So I think that Oyata Sensei was kind of his last student that he had. Ugushiku Tame explained to him about the grabbing technique and the vital points and everything, and how important. So when he met Wakinaguri, his friend, that's what he was all about. Wakinaguri, and from a Gina area. He was Chinese descent, and he had all the Kyusho and everything. So as he told us, it looked like his fingers were all the same length and no fingernails. So you start the Chinese training a young kid. And he said, you know, if he touched you, you were like on fire. He knew everything, you know. We think this was like more of an assassin type, you know, this type of skill he had, that it was very unique. And that they were friends, probably they had some family type similar jobs, maybe working in the castle, government, for the king, or what have you. So this tradition lives on. So it's just speculation, of course, but we're pretty sure that's possibly what happened. So he showed him that understand the human body, how it works. It's very much a part of Chinese martial arts also. So he got to learn with these guys. They kind of shared him, I think. I think they had fun. They were friends and all this. So I think that was kind of a unique thing that he got to train in. And then, of course, you know, they were older when they passed, and 1950s came around, and, you know, then he had to see other people, and he went out and trained. And he said from his teachers, they told him how to train. And what I feel I'm lucky at, he taught me how to analyze what I'm doing. And to me, this is a great gift. So to be able to look at kata and say, I think it means this. And out there, to me, there's so many people, and I don't want to say anything negative about anyone, but I don't think they quite get what the kata does. You know, because it's not common, you know. He told me this about when he taught in the United States. He says, Westerners have this feeling, I'm going to do this, this, and this to my opponent. He says, I look at it, he says, if I do this, he's going to do this, so I have to do that. So he's always a step or two ahead of the situation. It's a different how the different people look at how technique is. So it's not what I can do to my opponent. It's what can I get done when he reacts to me. You know, so it's kind of like a slingshot. You pull it back, it's going to go that way real fast. So you have to understand that, you know. So there's principles of technique, and I tell people there's 3 ways you can be attacked. Striking is one. That's punching, kicking, using a weapon, you know, whatever, you know, jumping off on someone. That could amaze, you know. That's all under the striking category. Then the number 2 is they'll grab you, followed up usually with a strike. And number 3 is you'll be pushed. Here again, probably followed up with some kind of striking, unless they push you down and they can probably stomp on you or something. So these are all dangerous situations. Martial arts is not easy. It's a very difficult road, but it's very rewarding. But it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of understanding, a lot of education. and a lot of practice, and a lot of failures along the way. So we failed and we get better. We don't do it again. So I think it's important to understand the weakness of the human body and the strengths of the body. Now, does the body do things that are weird? Yes, you know. Like I said, when I got knocked out and by my arm, I kept trying to get up and I kept passing out. Well, that was the body protecting itself, you know, because my blood pressure was too low. What happens if your arm gets cut off? The body puts more blood there. So it does some good things and it does things they're not quite sure of, why it happens. But as a practical thing, a martial artist, we have to train well and try to understand what we're doing, stay principled and stay to the old teachings, and respect what that is, so our technique is really special. So one thing we always said, you know, that I'm responsible for my opponent also. If I have to defend myself and I hurt that person, their life is in my hands. So I want to make sure if they fall, they don't kill themselves, that they're not too injured. You know, I can control them and wait for police to come or what have you. Also, we need to understand we have to protect ourselves, we also protect ourselves from the law. We're within the law, but I don't want to get, if I defend myself and I get arrested, then something's wrong. I want to be able to defend myself and the police understand I did the proper thing, you know. The police come and they say, well, I hit him in the mouth and his mouth's bleeding. Well, what did he do to you? Well, he swung at me. Where's your proof? So I get in trouble because he's bleeding, you see. So that's why we like vital point training and stuff. It doesn't show, and it's internal. It usually doesn't show. It bruises, of course, you know. But it's internal, and the people, you can hurt them without hurting them too much. So I think that's very important. How much do you teach people? Of course, karate's always been, I check their character out first. You know, but all of us know, you've known someone a long time and all of a sudden they change. And so we really have to check the character. And you are teaching a dangerous thing to people. They could easily hurt somebody bad. So I think, you know, by training hard and training properly, it gets people in the right state of mind also. Because mental illness and mental problems goes along with everything in life. You know, so, and a lot of people train to fight depression or what have you, and that's a good thing. And we have to see that in people. So, I know what you mean. It can be, you know, just simple punching can kill someone. So we have to be careful how we do that. So that's the first thing we do check is a person's character. So my thoughts on the future are kind of a hard thing to say because, you know, I hope the future is peaceful for everyone. But it's to keep training and keep teaching. Hope we can spread the technique and the kata and the weapons more in different countries. I have very good people that are helping me. I think that's a very important subject to do. And so the camaraderie and the brotherhood and the respect, as I've talked before about, we want to keep going, and general education of the arts. And I want to make karate something that everyone's proud of, and I hope the future is good for all of us. The kata isn't, it's Oyata Sensei told me it is very abstract. He told all his students. And that means a block isn't a block and a punch isn't a punch necessarily. So it's something else. And so the kata can be in reverse, the technique, you see. It can be the first motion and the eighth motion go together. So he said, this is very difficult to understand. It takes lots of training and lots of analyzation. So, and also the levels of how the kata is done. So you can, and kata in the basic form is okay, but you can't really fight with that, you see. So I have the story of when he came back to the United States, I took him to a karate tournament. And his comment when we left, he says, how come the white belt and the black belt kata was the same? And I said, well, no, the black belts like had more power and maybe speed, you know. He goes, no, you don't quite understand. And it took me a while to understand. But what he meant was the levels hadn't been done. So as an example, a basic movement, it's the timing on how you do the movement. And so if I do this motion, see, I can do it like that, but what's this hand doing? So I do it this way, you see. This is called kakeuchi. So that's harder to do than just this. But it's using both of my hands and my body properly, so see. So this hand triggers this one. So then we ask our friends, our anatomy doctor, that we have, quote, on call that helps us, we train with, about these, and that's how the body works on the trigger system. So this is what the kata does. So, you see. So if I went this way and this way, see, this is put together. So the kata may be here and here on the basic level, but now, see, it's a step up. So that's harder to do. So he explained to me, we're talking about Naihanchi kata, and he said, Naihanchi kata used to be here, now it's only here. I go, what? Yeah. He said, but the movements are there, but there's something missing. So I explained to it like with my hand, if this are the motions, so you have this motion, but you have this motion and this motion, see? So it's the motions like kakeuchi that are missing, you see? So, and those are really, they tie together the technique. And it's, until you do it, you don't quite understand it. But it makes the kata flow very, very nicely. But it makes it more difficult, and you have to make sure you still keep the basic motion. So we had problems with people too, you know, if I go down and punch, see, and that's basic, and if I go and put it together, you see it's faster, you see. So that's important. So 1, 2, and then we go this way, and we got more motion in it, you see. So then there's like 4 motions in the same motion, you see. So we went from 2 just to 4. But here's the problem we get then. People, instead of going here, it looks like this, and they lose this. So this is a problem we have, so you have to back up and make sure you do it right. So that furthest point here still has to happen. I just can't short circuit that. But when you put more in it, and the weapons training is the same way. You sometimes getting around your body and everything, one hand moves faster than the other one. You know, so, and we talk about this, you don't want a dead hand. So if I go this way, this hand's dead. If I go this way, it wasn't, you see. It was alive, both hands. So you don't want that. So So I go this way, see that it moves, then it keeps going. Then my reaction time is faster, and I can protect myself better. Because I don't have to think about it, it just happens, you know. As we all know as martial artists, thinking's too slow, you just react. Now this is my opinion only, and if you start a kata at this point and do it, you better come back to the same point. And there's a reason for that, in my opinion. But I do see a lot of kata starts here and ends up over here or something. So the pattern is important. And the reason to start here and end up the same spot, that I know my stances on each side are the same. And when I step out and I step back, they're equal, so you come back to the same spot. But it's more than that, because after you do kata a number of years, it's almost like a sonar. You know, and my students used to say, how can you end up back where you started without even looking? Because you become like a bat, you just know it's over there, you know. So, and until you do it, I guess, you know, it takes enough years to do that. So, to me, the pattern and the technique is important, but the execution is essential. And that's all the parts together. Just like an engine runs when all the parts are working well, the kata is the same way. You have to have balance, power, timing, see? And these are all essential. And your position should be good. You know, a lot of us, we lean too much as we get older, or even some people young. And we're always trying to correct ourselves. And our stance has to be solid and all this. And then, but there's also understanding of this. The cat stance to me is one of the stances that's very difficult to understand. Because if you have the back foot down and the front leg up, you can only use the front leg. And so it's very limited, you see. But if I'm in that stance and I raise the back heel and lower the front heel, I can move fast both ways. So my teacher told me that was the real cat stance. So, see, in other words, you take one and you adjust it, and then it becomes the real one. Because why wouldn't you want to be able to move back and forth, see? You know, because if I'm in a cat stance and I'm back, all I can do is front kick with it. Well, the opponent knows that, so okay, you know. So it's, I think what it is not overly doing things, it's modifying them. And, but I remember when we first trained, we had wide, low stances, and everybody's kind of gotten a little narrower and higher, you know. I think it's because the population gotten older, and, you know, part of it, and it's hard to do it, so. And I understand that at my age now. I'm 74 years old now. And you know, at times, over decades, you know, you develop injuries and things, and also normal sickness enters people, and you know, and it's too bad, but a lot of people had to quit because they couldn't really do it. So I've endured through injuries and endured through diseases and things. So when I was born, I had it's called pectus expurgatum. It's where the sternum grows in, and you know, you're very, very sunken or deep here. So the military wouldn't take, you know, I couldn't join the military. So, so that was the first kind of a bad situation there. But, you know, you recover and you do it. So it's always been a problem, but I didn't let it stop me. And of course, in high school, you couldn't play football because of it, or do certain sports, you know, because you're winded more than a normal person would be. So, this is, you know, part of training. You endure this. So, and as time goes on, you know, I got Lyme's disease and got that kind of fixed, but it was really a part of really holding me back on a lot of things. So couldn't participate certain times. But got over that, and you know, and now I'm back, and it's kind of back in my body again, so I'm dealing with it still. So even though I have injuries, and this trip was hard on me, I wanted to come and still, and so I still try to train as much as I can. And of course, I'm in the position of the trainer, you know, but I still need to train and do things. So what you can do. So no matter how bad you are, you can still do things. And if all you can do is punch in the air, or, you know, then that's still doing it. That's still training. So training doesn't mean you have to do everything. Because look at all of the different arts in the world. I mean, not every art kicks, and not every art punches. So, you know, what do they do, you see? And so, you know, as long as you can still breathe and move, you know, there's hope for us, and we can still train. So, and it's hard days. I mean, I have terrible days where I you know, luckily I'm retired, so I can spend time doing this. But I have really good people that help me, and really good students and competent people. So they keep me going too, you know, because they'll say bad things to me if I don't, you know. So, but I love the arts has brought people together as friends and lifelong friends on cases, and because we're all in the same journey. So to me, this is a very good thing. So through my injuries and through my ailments, I'm still doing it. So, and I'm fascinated by the martial arts. So, as we say, we're martial art junkies, you know. So, fascinated by it because I studied with a man that did incredible things, and he showed them, you know. This is one of my pet peeves also. I'm sorry to go down this road, but proper distance, okay, is very important. And you have to understand the world, I mean, everything in the world, because you could be anywhere. So if I'm too far away from you, I may be safe from you punching and kicking me, but I'm not safe from you pulling out a weapon. So this is important. So if you're way far away, okay, but, you know, in my country, there's a lot of guns around, so you have to figure that in. So proper distance is close enough where my opponent can't touch me, but I can touch him. And that's because I know how to do technique. And that's knowing how to use the body properly. So how do we measure distance in the martial arts? Some people say hips, some people say toes. The truth is, the distance is measured by the heel. And that's a hard thing to understand, how that's done. But I can demonstrate to people, and they'll understand how to get a better distance. My teacher did it, you know, because he had these high-level teachers, luckily for him, that knew this, you know, knew this type of technique. They knew how to root in also. So they were hard to push down or move also. So I'm not saying he taught us all about that. That's another difficult part of learning. But so knowing how to use the body properly, how you can execute. And which eyesight do we use, see? So we have two eyesights, straight eyesight and peripheral. So which one is the best one to use? Well, the peripheral is your smart eyesight, and your straight eyesight is slower. It's for detailed things. You know, you need both of them, of course. They're both important. But, you know, the peripheral, you see everything. So I think this is important, how to defend yourself, see, by that. So, and I cover things in my teaching, and my teacher taught me things like hands before the feet moving. And this is a little controversial thing, I'll tell you. Even some of my friends, we talk about this. So it doesn't mean it's 100% of the time. But if you look at martial arts and somebody's, like, say, doing punching, and they step and then punch, this doesn't work. Because if I'm in front of you and I step to punch, you're going to move. So how do we do this where it works? So go to something like, how do you shoot a gun? You aim and then you shoot. Very few people can shoot without aiming. There's a few, of course, you know, sharpshooters and stuff, people practice. But you generally have to aim and then you shoot. Well, karate is the same way. I have to start my aim and then I execute, then I shoot, more or less. So if I step and my hand's back here, the opponent's going to move already, or start to move. But if this moves first, and then I move, see, I've already aimed, you see. So, and I think this is an important aspect that a lot of people have to really think about and try to understand it. And I've done it to people, and then after I do it to them, they completely understand that this, and in kata, it looks like step, punch, or whatever, you know. So try to punch, step, punch. You see what I'm saying? You get it rolling. Because this shows everything. So if you step, this really moves. If I start my punch, it doesn't move much, see? So I start my punch, doesn't move much. If I step, see, I move like this. If I start my punch, I don't. Now I can move, you see. So, and you know, I see a lot of different systems, and there's a lot of fast guys out there. I mean, there's some talent, let me tell you. And even I may not agree with certain systems, I respect them because they're very talented. So if they fight 4 foot away, they have to be fast, or it doesn't work, you know. So yeah, they're fast. But 4 foot away may work in one country, but not in another one. Because boom, you know, or they pull a knife out or something. And I've met knife fighters, and these guys are good. A lot of respect for these guys. Very scary, and they're very, very quick. So as a karate person, I have to be really on my toes. You know, very, very aware of my surroundings. My teacher, when he went to the United States, he was able to come out of his culture a little bit. So as I was talking before, if people are in their own culture too much, it's a beautiful thing, don't get me wrong, but you're not cosmopolitan enough to understand how somebody from another culture may come in and they react differently. So he was able to come out of his culture and see what other people did and not be kind of stuck in that, you know. When I first started training, they said, if somebody attacks you in Japan, they do it one at a time. And I'm going, you know, United States, I'll jump you at once, you know. So this is the big cultural difference. And I'm going, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't know if that is even true, you see. So, so you have to prepare for the worst. So if you know, it's hard to fight more than one person. I don't care who you are, you know. And then you don't know if they'll pull out a weapon, you know. If 3 or 4 people around you, you can't see behind you, so, you know, this is a problem. So by training better for us, being aware of what we're doing, then we'll survive better and health improves and you know, we have modern medicine now, which helps, and we understand the old medicine too. So yeah, to me, the blend is good. You know, the herbal medicines and the modern medicine. So we can help each other, and the modern surgeries and stuff, and replace this or replace that, it's getting better. So I think hopefully we'll have longevity, and that's what I go for. And what's more important than that is that we do things properly, and I hope the future is good for all of us.